Kat. This is partially a VR to Tyler from Let's Talk About Prepping About What Are You Going to Grow?
Hello everyone, you're watching Let's Talk About Prepping, and I'm starting it now. It's a little early for me. I've still got at least a week of freezing weather right ahead of me now. It's freezing right now. But I've been going through my dirt. It's pretty fun to play with dirt. So I've been back here in my garden prep corner / potato cannon testing range, working my dirt and making commitment to do some garden videos this year. Anyways, hope you're all doing well. Love to see some of you guys talking about gardens, even if you're just doing the one seed challenge. I think all of us can at least get one bucket of dirt and one seed and see what happens. Love to see that from you guys. I think a commitment to trying to grow at least a little bit of food and trying to learn how to do that, get a little bit of practice under your belt, is one of the best things you can do for yourself. Alright, hope you're all doing well. Everybody stay safe out there.
We're going to grow in our garden this year a little bit different than what I would normally do. This year we are doing no experimenting, and what we're doing is we're putting in greens only. No potatoes, no beans, no pulses, no squash. We have limited garden size and we don't need them. We have a lot of carbohydrates stored up. What I really want is an ongoing supply of fresh greens throughout the growing season, which for me will be probably, looking at the weather, probably I'll start planting in about 2 to 3 weeks time, and we should get crops all the way through November, but towards the end it's mostly going to be kale and parsley. So I'm going to show you the seeds that I'm going to select, and Kitty will make the selection, but Kitty's already growing. What she has here on the left is the bulb of a head of lettuce, and as you can see, well maybe you can see, she's put it in water, it's already regrowing. So lettuce regrows, as does of course green onions. And that would do us probably for a meal or two, and if we keep doing this throughout the season, we will have a plentiful supply of these green vegetables. So where we live in Canada, I don't expect to run out of carrots or potatoes or squash or pumpkin. They're fairly easily grown up here once the ice goes away, and we should be able to get them. We already have an existing organic vegetable boxes delivered to us. I don't see any particular reason why that won't keep going throughout the pandemic. There may be weeks where we don't get anything, there may be weeks where we don't, but we're going to make sure we have a good supply of vegetables coming in week after week from about beginning of June onwards. So what we're going to do is we're going to row plant. One week we'll plant one row, next week we're going to plant another row. What we traditionally do is just shove everything in, and then we have a big crop, and then we have to pull stuff out, and we have another little crop later on. But this year particularly, I'm looking at this not as a supplemental fun thing to do, but as an essential source of green vegetables, green leafy vegetables for us throughout the season. So for that reason and that reason alone, we're going to plant per week. So I estimate the last row will go in probably at the end of May. And I think it's really important this year that we focus on that. We will be dehydrating a lot of the leaves that we don't use, and I want green vegetables. I particularly want certain types of green vegetables. I've said before, parsley is a miracle plant, and everybody should eat lots more parsley than they do, so we're going to have quite a bit of parsley. But what seeds am I selected for Kitty to make the final selection on? Well, spinach. She likes to make her own pesto. She makes vegan pesto and it's very nice. So we have some spinach. I have some kale, because we actually like kale, so get over yourselves. It's a very, very easily produced vegetable. Basil as well for pesto, and of course more spinach. The only thing exotic I'm going to do this year is I'm going to do peppers again, some sweet peppers. We don't really have a great deal of success with these. You really would need a greenhouse or a pre-start. We don't. We just throw the seeds in the soil and hope for the best. But I will try and make some peppers for the late fall. Arugula we really like, and so that's going to go in. We always make tons of that, and it grows well. But we have two types of it. So we use heirloom and we use different seeds. So you don't just get a seed type of arugula, we get different types, because what works one season may not work the next. And also from different places. Rainbow Swiss chard. Last year was the first year I had success since we moved with Swiss chard, so I was actually pleased with that. And some collard greens, old-fashioned collard greens. Perfectly good in a smoothie, perfectly good chopped up fine in a salad. Rainbow Swiss chard, and of course Italian giant parsley. Really recommend, if you don't grow anything, grow parsley. Parsley and mint, they're the two things to grow. We have mint growing wild outside the house. It's starting to push up, so we don't need to plant any. There's another variety of kale and another variety of parsley. I can't emphasize this enough. Make sure you've got plenty of different ones. This is Ford Hook Swiss chard, and there's some more parsley with different types. And there's red Russian kale. Where we live, I find red Russian kale is absolutely the best kale that we can grow. It's an early cropper, and you can basically plant it direct at the end of May, and it doesn't take long to grow, and it tends to go all the way through the season, and it's frost hardy. So one of the things I anticipate doing this summer, which we usually do anyway in the neighbourhood, I expect it to be more formalised, which is barter and exchange. So people that have too many tomatoes would swap them for people that have too much kale, which would be us, and vice versa. The reason I'm not particularly growing beans, edamame and other things like that this year is because I don't really see a point to it. I don't think those sorts of vegetables are going to get in short supply in my area. They take up a lot of ground space. I have every single year practiced those because in an ongoing SHTF it's really important that you actually are able to grow in quantity squash and pumpkins and stuff like that. The thing that I will grow is amaranth again, because I kind of like growing amaranth. It makes a great cereal, a good substitute grain, and can make flour out of easily. Very easy to plant, doesn't require much looking after, very drought resistant, and quite a beautiful red-leafed plant. And in the late fall you get quite a lot of grain from it, which is actually seed. And I recommend amaranth as well. So I'd grow, if I was you, amaranth, mint, if you don't have it already, and parsley this year. And the reason I'm not growing beans this year is because I don't really have a lot of space, but at the same time is, I don't know about you, but I have a huge amount of dried beans, like I do. So I don't really need to replace that stock this year in this type of an emergency. If it was an ongoing one, year 2, year 3, I'd consider growing quite a lot of beans. I don't really need to. The other thing we have in quantity, and I've done videos on this before, is sprouts. Sprout seeds. These are seeds that you add water to, change the water every day for 4 days, and you get a whole bunch of seeds that sprout up, which you can then plant, or you can eat them. Very, very nutritious, great source of minerals as well as vitamins. And like I say, I have a couple of, probably about 12 to 15 kilograms of those seeds, all in my lab bags. I don't need to crash them out. I might be doing some sprouting as and when fresh fruit becomes less and less available. At the moment, it's becoming less available. What you see is what we get. And right now what we have is a lot of apples and pears and the odd dying avocado. I do expect as time goes on, things like bananas, avocados, strawberries, until we get to the growing season here, are going to become very, very in short supply. So yes, you can buy some in the freezer bags, you're relying on the power not going out, but at the same time, we're going to have to realistically readapt our diets to what's available and what's cheap, because food prices are going to go up by at least 30 to 40%. They're already going up, I think it's pretty obvious to anybody. And again, the poor are going to get hit way worse than anybody else. I already suspect that the food banks are being supplemented by the governments. It strikes me, especially in the United States, where there's reports of massive increase in use of food banks, that they're not actually particularly running out of food. Strikes me as pretty strange, unless the government or officials are actually cycling food into those areas because they don't want to have food riots. So I don't suspect that food banks are going to go away and empty out. Certainly in areas like Canada and Toronto, they might very well run empty, because we're actually able to give enough of a supplement to cash to people that they probably should be able to buy some food. But in good times, enough of the population has to use food banks. So hopefully it won't. One of the great things in Canada as a nurse is that no nurses use food banks, and yet the United Kingdom so ran down its health service and its payment of registered nurses that in large areas of the south and southwest, where they're getting hardest hit right now with the virus, they actually have to use food banks, which is absolutely appalling. So it's terrible, terrible. So that's what I'm doing. That was a VR to Tyler from Let's Talk About Prepping, an excellent channel. That's what we're growing. We're not having huge plans to grow a lot of stuff. We're not going to be able to pay much attention to the garden. We're either going to be at work or getting over work or getting ready to go to work, and that's basically going to be our spring and summer. So remember, in SHTF, if you don't prep, tomorrow will always be worse than today. And part of prepping is to become self-sufficient as far as you can in food, as well as water, as well as shelter, and as well as finance. And all of those things we've been hammering on about for decades now, and this current temporary emergency clearly shows that although a lot of us are insane, we were actually right. Toodles! Yeah.